vice chair. I should
It's really
know.
hard. It's hard work.
Yeah. Show us when we're ready. Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Senate Education 311 on Tuesday, January 9th. I apologize, Ms. Steinerman, that we're getting a little, and to Heidi, your last name? Ms. Fishman, that we're getting a little bit of a late break. The person to your left knows what we're often late, our committees are often late. So we are here to talk about Holocaust education. Let's see. Ms. Steinerman, you and I have been in conversation about this issue. This committee's had a little bit of background on this issue. Even prior to this formation of the committee, Senator Terenzini, you may recall, had a bill in when he was on the committee pushing for this. And in our conversations, Ms. Steinerman, Senator Brom Hinsdale and I met, I don't know, sometime between Thanksgiving and the middle of December to talk about this issue. And we said, we'd bring it back up. We'd bring it into the committee, have a conversation, get a sense of a little bit more about your interests and Ms. Fishman's interests and your team's interests, the people that you've been working with, and see where the committee is at. And so with that, if you don't mind, Deborah, I'll hand it over to you to give us a little more background and some information.
Thank you. Okay, Heidi, I guess I'll start if that's okay.
Yeah, unless Heidi, you want to start.
She can start and then I'll go second.
All right, well, thank you for inviting us back. As you said, my name is Deborah Steinerman. I live in Jeffersonville, and I'm the daughter of Holocaust survivors and the president and founder of the Vermont Holocaust Memorial, which is an educational virtual museum without walls. So we do not have a physical facility. And when we started this advocacy, as you mentioned, Chair, we had hoped that Vermont would be the 14th state to create Holocaust education legislation. At this point, hopefully, Vermont will be the 27th state. It's, you know, every few months, another state signs on and has Holocaust legislation in the books. And since I spoke to your committee last year, anti-Semitism and challenges to fact-based education have escalated globally. It was thought that Act 1 working group would address anti-Semitism and Holocaust education, but that was not the case. And it's not appropriate, it's not an appropriate place for Holocaust education. It's not social equity per se. Promoting the truth of Holocaust history and reaching more young people from diverse backgrounds has never been more crucial. Vermont parents, teachers, and students have shared with us how invaluable the lessons of the Holocaust are and how they must be included as part of their school's curriculum. For example, a teacher from Wolcott mentioned to us how she met a guidance counselor who confided in her that she never learned anything about the Holocaust in Vermont schools and she'd like to educate herself about it. And a parent from East Hardwick told us that her child, a sophomore in high school, had never studied the Holocaust. So it's especially alarming. And a new poll from The Economist found that half of young adults ages 18 to 29 believed the statement, the Holocaust is a myth. That's shocking. And it underscores the need for meaningful, immersive Vermont Holocaust education. It's vital that our current and future generations understand our collective responsibility to combat anti-Semitism and hate in all of its forms, from words to actions. We've seen swastikas in and around Vermont drawn at schools and desks, on walls, in playgrounds, and other very scary symbols. Vermont Holocaust Memorial is currently the state's only resource for Holocaust education. We've grown our collaborations with many like-minded organizations and helping us bring these lessons throughout the state through speaking engagements, professional development, and more, but we're not educators. We can only supplement what has already been taught in the classroom. And to top it off, our organization's members are aging and can't continue this invaluable work much longer. With your support, every Vermont school will teach the fundamental historic lessons about the deadly consequences of unchecked anti-Semitism and hate that only the Holocaust education can supply. And we hope that you'll pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steinerman. Any questions, immediate questions for Deborah at this point before we hear from Ms. Fishman? Mind joining us at the table? Thanks. So S87, as a reminder to senators, that's the bill that Senator Lyons and others sponsored last year, the beginning of the biennium. And she came in to talk to us, gave us some background. Good to see you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Very
Okay.
happy to be here. My name's Heidi Fishman. I'm on the board of Vermont Holocaust Memorial. I live in Norwich. A little background. When my mother was an infant, her family fled from Cologne to Amsterdam. They thought they'd be safe there, but they were wrong. After May 1940, there was always a backpack at the door in case they had to leave at a moment's notice. My mother wasn't allowed to go to public school because she was Jewish, and she had to wear a yellow star that said Jew in Dutch. Later, her family was forced to give up their apartment, and all four of her grandparents were sent to camps that were taken away by the Nazis. In 1943, my mother's family went into hiding. Then they were arrested, sent to Camp Westerbork. That year, for my mother's birthday, my grandmother made a cake out of rotten potatoes, and my grandfather gave her a doll and said, "This doll contains our only remaining money. Guard it. Don't let anybody take it away." She was 9. 6 weeks later, my mother and her family were sent to Theresienstadt, a Nazi camp in Prague, near Prague. And 4 weeks after that, my grandfather came to her sobbing and said goodbye. He was on the list for the transport the next day to Auschwitz. These are some of the personal details that I tell students when I'm invited to their classrooms. However, Holocaust education isn't only about what happened. It includes teaching why it happened and how it happened. We're not advocating Holocaust education just so students know the past. We're advocating for this because it can shape the future. Holocaust education provides an essential opportunity to inspire critical thinking, societal awareness, personal growth. When students learn about the Holocaust, they're reminded that their words and their decisions have consequences. They see that when Jews are hated, other groups are targeted as well. Most importantly, as stated by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, quote, they understand that historical, social, religious, political, and economic factors can lead to the erosion and disintegration of democratic values and human rights, end of quote. More than half of all US states require Holocaust education. Vermont is the only New England state that does not. It's time for Vermont to incorporate Holocaust education into its standards for all middle and high schools. Please pass this bill.
Do you know why you say middle and high school? Tell me a little bit about elementary school, or say a word or two if you want.
I would love it in elementary too. I'm
Okay,
just
so
not
it's not-
pushing it.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to 4th graders.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's a matter of, you know, the more time students are exposed to a concept, the better they learn it. So if you can do a little bit and a little more a few years later and a little more a few years later, you can get deeper in. If you want to, you know, we can start at kindergarten. How to be nice to each other.
Right. Senator Gulick and Senator Sheen.
Yeah, I had an excellent high school teacher. He was absolutely fabulous, and we did a very, very powerful unit on the Holocaust that is still very much with me today. But my question is, you know, how are we teaching World War II without Holocaust education? I don't see how the two can be decoupled. And I mean, obviously it's happening, but can anyone speak to that? Because it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, sometimes World War II has a paragraph or two in the textbook about the Holocaust. It's about fighting the Germans, but it's not about what the Germans were doing.
So it just might refer to it, you know, but not actually
Not dive
discuss
in.
it and dive in. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you for your testimony. I support this, but I think, you know, my question is pretty much identical to Senator Kulik with just, you know, when teachers are getting to the World War II module, I mean, what's happening? Are they pressing skip? I mean, it's such a huge part of World War II, and I'm surprised that there are schools or teachers that just are not talking about it. Yeah. It's more of a general comment, I guess.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. I'm surprised at the same question.
I mean, that's why we're here. Because it's unbelievable that, you know, it wouldn't be covered in depth. It needs to be more than just a passing paragraph. Because honestly, you know, the Holocaust in World War II in Europe was really all about what was happening because of Hitler and who Hitler was targeting. And he wasn't just targeting Jews. He was targeting, you know, political prisoners. He was targeting the disabled. He was targeting Blacks. You know, the list goes on. And when we speak, we do have a slide in our presentations that explains that it wasn't just Jews. Jews were the main target, but it never ends with Jews. And it continued on. And how can that not be covered? Because this is something that is so critical, especially today, you know, with all the hate that is going on all over the world and in Vermont. So, you know, if it's not required, teachers can pass it over. They can avoid the difficult conversation. And it's a conversation that, you know, in time with the passing of Holocaust survivors, the witnesses to that time are not going to be around anymore. So we have to guarantee that these lessons will be taught and taught properly, and not, you know, with denial and misinformation and propaganda that's going on. The lessons need to be properly shared with our students into the future, and it has to be guaranteed. And the lessons are easy, and curriculum is easy to find and free. It's not a problem. U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum has plenty of curriculum available to teachers, and professional development that's available for free. We work with Echoes and Reflections, which is a program that's affiliated with the Anti-Defamation League, the U.S. Shoah Foundation, Yad Vashem, which is the historical museum in Israel on the Holocaust. And Echoes brings free facilitators to Vermont for us to teach these teachers how to bring the lessons to their classrooms. And every year we have a different theme focus. So it's really kind of an easy ask, we think, and one of the most important lessons that can be brought into the classrooms in our schools. And it doesn't have to just be in social studies classes.
Right.
It's in humanities. It can be in science, in art. There are
Right,
so many different venues.
Yeah, night as a middle schooler, yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you both for the testimony. I agree with you. It's an easy ask, but I do wonder what the next step here is. You know, are we going to have curriculum development folks come in and explain their perspective on time management? I mean, I don't know what the next step would be.
Yeah, the next step would really be to have some folks from the Agency of Education in to take us through, you know, basically give us their opinion. But I agree. I don't think this is tough ask. I think there may have been some confusion at one point that it was in the standards, so we just want to clarify that.
It's not,
Right.
it's definitely not in there. And a lot of schools teach it,
Yeah, maybe that was,
but just because they do teach it now,
Yeah.
doesn't mean they'll always teach it.
Right.
You know, some teacher could come in and say, that's not important, I'm not gonna teach it anymore.
right.
Some schools, it's an elective,
I
which
see.
means only some students get it and
Yeah.
many don't. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I worry about the time where some Holocaust denier or whatever principal says not in my school.
Sure,
You
no,
know,
I think that's
it's-
absolutely, I think that's fair. The other thing that I think we just need to pull apart is our process legislatively around these things. How do we direct, maybe someone else knows better than I, but we would just need to direct, it's the state board to make it a standard, but that's something we can figure out. So I think we do it legislatively.
A lot of states have figured it out.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
That's all part of it, like how
Yeah,
did,
people are just asking process.
how did different states, how are they, handling the same issue? You know, that would be
Yeah,
worthy testimony.
some states are very specific. In first grade you do this, in second grade you do that. I mean, and it's all laid out. And other states have a very loose, it will be covered somehow, somewhere. And there's everything in between.
And I think it would be really interesting for this committee to dig into that and see what's out there. Just, I know Brandeis years ago started a program, I mean, this was, let's see, I'm 27, so this has gotta be, I'm thinking, back 30 years ago, they had, I think it was called Seeing History and Ourselves, I mean, they're all.
Facing history and ourselves.
Facing-
Which was a really celebrated program. It'd be interesting to hear from folks there. I'd also like to know if, I don't know why I'm looking to Senator Gulick since it might be, but UVM, I'd love to get a sense of their resources, that kind of thing. So that's all for us to figure out.
I've spoken to UVM.
Yeah.
I am in touch with the director of the UVM Holocaust Studies Department, and they prefer to focus academically at the university college level on these things, and they are not involved directly with secondary schools. We have had them speak sometimes in some of our programs, the director, but they are not directly involved with the lower school system. But please feel free to reach out to John Funer.
Yeah.
John Funer is the
Years ago,
director there.
They had a real nationwide expert. I don't know if he or she is still around. This was mentioned to me in the hallway maybe last week. But it would be, yeah, we can dig into it. Committee, any other questions on this topic?
I just have some paper. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know if you
that'd be
want, I don't know if you want paper,
Yeah,
more
pass it, go
things
ahead.
to clutter your desk with. But there's some interesting stuff in there. Believe it or not.
I'd like to just let you know that we are working currently with the Agency of Education. Last year, we had Holocaust Education Week. It was in January, at the end of January. It coincided with International Holocaust Remembrance Day. This year, we've decided to have it at the beginning of April for two reasons. One, it coincides better with when teachers reach World War II in their curriculum, as well as the fact that April is Genocide Awareness Month. So that it's terribly fitting. So the first week of April this year will be the virtual Holocaust Education Week again. And as I said, we're working with contact at Agency of Education and with our contact at Echoes and Reflections to put that together. We're working on that right now. If you would be interested, we can get a spokesperson from Echoes and Reflections to speak to you. They're the premier Holocaust education national organization. And we have other teachers and parents and students who would love to testify. So if that's something that you're interested in, please reach out to me and I can contact them.
Deborah, do you mind emailing our committee assistant just a list of possible witnesses?
Sure.
That would be great.
Okay, I can do that, put that together and get that to you tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be great. Somebody from that organization would be great. Senator Duick.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. And one of the things, I don't want to speak for the committee, but one of the things that has come up over and over again is that we really would like to see, an equitable educational landscape across the state. And we'd also like to have a really good handle on what's being taught where. And something like this, which really lays it out, clearly and explicitly, I think is very helpful for us in that way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And please, if you do have any further testimony in this regard, please, if you could include us, we might be very helpful if any questions come up as to, resources, our experiences with teachers and speaking. We're currently also gathering participants for our 5th, I think, Holocaust Educators Workshop.
Yep.
So that's going to be in March in Burlington, and we have one every year.
Senator Williams.
Senator, it would be nice for me to know if you had a recommended curriculum. I mean, if there was a state out there that was already doing it, so we didn't need to.
You don't want to reinvent it.
Right. Something that was suitable to ECHOS and.
ECHOS has curriculum for every grade level, and it's a very easy website to navigate. Teachers can go on there and by subject matter, by grade, they have videos, they have lesson plans. The teachers love it. Yeah. We are originally, our first workshop for teachers was with Facing History and Ourselves. And then we thought the second year, let's try a different one. Let's try Echoes and Reflections. And a lot of the teachers did return for the second, they come every year, or some of them, and they loved Echoes much more. It's much more hands-on. It's much more, easier to manipulate, I guess you could say, the website.
All the graphs are there, the pictures, and there's a video of a survivor that tells a specific little bit about the question that they're working on. It's all integrated.
It's ready made for them.
Yeah. So Deborah, ideally, if we could hear from someone from ECHOS next week to Zoom in, and we'll also ask Morgan to have somebody from the Agency of Education to testify next week. And then if we could have just one teacher that you think is really knocking it out of the park here in Vermont, that would be great.
Not a problem. I got a number of them. We're very lucky. There are dedicated teachers that are teaching this. The problem is it's not guaranteed. So, that's our concern.
It's, for me, it's interesting because I get invited to speak at schools.
Yeah.
And I get invited to speak at more schools out of state than in state. So, and why is that? Yeah. I don't know why that is. It could just be the appeal of somebody far away come to your school. But I can tell my parents, my mom's story, my grandparents' story very well. I bring a whole book about it. In state, not as many calls as
And when we do have our speakers speak in state, a lot of times it's to the same teachers. These are the ones that are dedicated to teach these lessons, and they call our speakers back, and they like to have different speakers come. They'll have Heidi come, they'll have me come. We have three other speakers, and they like to give this, we supplement their lessons with these personal stories. So they like to hear the different experiences because every single one is a different experience.
It's a very different story when the survivor was in hiding, or the survivor was on a kinder transport, or in a camp, or all different stories.
Yeah. The statistics you open with, Deborah, that the economists put out, 18 to 29-year-olds, only that 50% of that age group believe that the Holocaust was a myth. That's
very scary.
very scary.
Yeah, that was a poll done by The Economist or YouGov, YOUJOV, and that's what they found very recently. And it's only gonna, it's only gonna get worse.
No question.
Thank you.
Claims conference is on this first page we gave you. 15% believe it's acceptable for someone to hold neo-Nazi views. Really?
Yeah, no, this is helpful.
Thank you. Please, please reach out to us with any questions at any time, and please include us, whenever you do have anybody testifying about this, because I think we could be helpful.
I agree. That's the only thing I can't guarantee. I'm gonna have to put that on all of you just to keep an eye on our schedule, because I'm just
Okay.
miss it, because everybody always wants us to reach out to them. But just Morgan will do his best. We're gonna try to have people in next week. But if you could keep an eye on our calendar, that would be very helpful to us as well.
Sure, and I'll contact Morgan. Contact Morgan if we see something.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making the trip.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. So the other group, Morgan, just before we close, that we should reach out to is I would just ask our usual suspects if they want to testify on this, if they object to it, if they have any concerns, and they can come in. So that's the NEA, the Principal Association, Superintendent Association, and School Board Association. Anything else from anybody else? Okay, I think I'm gonna ask Morgan to take us off.